On behalf of the Chesterfield Circuit Court and the Clerk's Office, we would like to welcome you to jury service and thank you for being here today. The purpose of this video is to outline the process and your role, what to expect when serving on a jury, the rules you must observe as a juror, and the methods you'll follow to reach a decision on a case. The Constitution provides our right to trial by jury, and jury selection is controlled by statute. Jury service is one of the most important responsibilities that you will exercise as a citizen of this community. Jury service is not only the responsibility of all qualified citizens, but also an opportunity for members of the community to participate directly in the administration of justice. Trial by jury is one of the essential rights of our American democracy. Serving as jurors reminds us all that these rights exist only as long as individual citizens are willing to uphold them. So we would like to start by saying thank you to each of you for your appearance in court today. If you should have any questions once this video is done, please don't hesitate to ask. Overview of your jury service and your responsibilities. Your jury service begins with a summons. If you're summoned to serve on a jury, it is mandatory for you to show up. Not appearing may result in a criminal contempt of court charge and a fine. If you have an emergency, you will need to contact jury services immediately. If a given number of jurors are not present, then a case cannot go forward. Rescheduling can result in a cost to the county and the Commonwealth. People are randomly selected to serve on a jury because panels must represent a cross-section of the community. You are expected to serve for the entire term and may be required to make more than one appearance. Check your summons for the dates and length of your term. The law allows for few exemptions of jury duty. Keep in mind, having a busy schedule is not considered a valid excuse for being exempt from serving on a jury. If you have a reason that you feel you cannot serve, such as a physical ailment, a special conflict, or a genuine hardship, please bring this to the court's attention. Additionally, should you have any special needs, please advise jury services. Jury trials typically last one day. However, there may be occasions where a trial could last longer or even several days. Please plan accordingly. The judge will determine when breaks and lunchtime occur. Please listen closely to the judge's instructions so the case can promptly resume without delays. There is a possibility you may not sit on a jury even after you report. Sometimes the case is settled just a few moments before the trial begins. Your very presence encourages parties to settle without going into court. So even though several trials are scheduled for a certain day, the court does not know until later that morning how many will go to trial. Regardless of whether or not you're selected, please be sure to follow the instructions provided to you on your jury summons and the jury office regarding future service dates. You will be reimbursed each day you must report for jury duty. The amount is set by the state legislature. Many organizations continue to pay wages while their employees serve on a jury. You cannot be fired, demoted, or penalized for being called to jury service. Check with your employer for what their policy may require. The types of jury trials. You may be asked to serve on either a civil case or a criminal case. There are two kinds of criminal offenses, felonies and misdemeanors. In a misdemeanor case, 7 jurors are usually selected to hear the case. In felony cases, 12 jurors are usually selected to hear the case. In a civil case, depending on the amount of damages claimed, 5 or 7 jurors will be selected to hear the case. Depending on the severity of the case, sometimes additional jurors will be chosen. The trial proceedings. The individuals you may see in a courtroom consist of the judge. The role of the judge in a jury trial is to be the decision maker as to legal issues. Attorneys. In civil cases, there's a plaintiff and a defendant. They may each be represented by attorneys, or they may choose to represent themselves. In criminal cases, there is a defendant and an attorney who represent the Commonwealth or the county, depending on the type of case. Courtroom clerk. The courtroom clerk assists the judge, assembles the jurors, and oversees admitted evidence. Court reporter. The circuit court is a court of record. Therefore, the court reporter is responsible for transcribing the entire court proceedings. Bailiff. The bailiff is responsible for providing security and maintaining proper order. A typical jury trial consists of 6 main phases: selecting the jury panel, opening statements, witness testimony and cross-examination, closing arguments, jury instructions, jury deliberation, and verdict. Not everyone will be selected to be on a jury. The process of selecting a jury is called voir dire. The purpose of jury voir dire is to ascertain whether any juror has any interest or bias in the case. During this process, the judge and attorneys will ask the potential jurors questions in order to select appropriate jurors for the case. To ensure a fair trial, it's extremely important for you to provide honest information at this time. If you feel your answer is too personal to share in open court, you may request to speak privately to the judge and attorneys. As a result of this process, both sides should feel confident that they have an impartial and unbiased jury to hear the evidence and decide their case. Once a jury is selected, the trial will begin. The attorneys will present their opening statements. Opening statements will provide the jury an overview of what both sides expect the evidence will show. Statements made during this time are not to be considered as evidence. After opening statements, each side will have an opportunity to provide evidence to support their case, which may include the examination and cross-examination of witnesses. Sometimes during testimony, an attorney may object. When the attorneys do not feel like their discussions are appropriate to have in open court, such as to discuss points of law or whether certain evidence should be admitted, the judge will permit the attorneys to approach the bench to discuss the matter privately. During this time, the judge may ask the jurors to leave the courtroom so that the judge can discuss the matter in open court. The purpose of these discussions is to make sure the jury hears only evidence that is legally valid before making its decision. Similar to opening statements, the closing arguments offer the attorneys a chance to summarize the case. This is the final chance for the attorneys to address the jury prior to deliberations. After closing arguments, the judge will give the jury instructions of law before they begin deliberations. These are a set of legal standards the jury will need to decide. Jurors must accept and follow the law as instructed by the judge, even though they may have a different idea about what the law is or ought to be. After receiving instruction from the judge, the jurors, as a group, consider the case through a process called deliberation. Deliberation is the first opportunity for the jury to discuss the case. Once deliberation begins, the first thing the jurors need to do is elect one member of the jury to be the foreperson. This person will lead the deliberation and ensure that the discussions remain orderly. If there is a question, the foreperson should write it down and give it to the bailiff, who will then take it to the judge. During deliberations, speak freely and keep an open mind. Listen to the opinions and point of views of the other jurors, but make your own decision. Do not be intimidated into agreement. However, to reach a unanimous decision, some jurors may have to change their opinion. In both civil and criminal cases, a jury decision must be unanimous. If the jury cannot agree, then the judge must declare a mistrial. Once the jury reaches a verdict, the jury foreperson informs the bailiff will notify the judge, the court will reconvene, and the verdict is read in open court. Fairness to the parties in all cases requires that jurors follow these rules. It is important to avoid all forms of media during your jury service, which may influence or adversely affect your decision. This includes newspaper and print media, television, radio, all social media platforms which may discuss issues related to the case proceedings. During your time as a juror, avoid publicly sharing or commenting on any of the information regarding cases you may hear. Avoid discussing the case with anyone, including family members and fellow jury members, until the case is concluded. If anyone tries to discuss the case with you, notify the judge immediately. Follow instructions by the judge or other court personnel regarding the media, and immediately report unauthorized use of the internet or social media to the judge or authorized court personnel. Finally, you should be aware that all attorneys in a jury case are provided with complete lists of jurors, their employers, their occupation, and date of birth, allowing them to do proper juror research. Regardless of the type of case in which you may be called to serve as a juror, keep in mind that a person's livelihood or life may hang in the balance, making your job as a juror a very serious one. Serving on a jury may be one of the most important and significant civil privileges that we have as a citizen of the United States. On behalf of the Chesterfield Circuit Court and the Clerk's Office, we thank you for your commitment and your dedication to our American justice system.